All right, there, guys. So we've had a statement from Keir Starmer in the House of Commons today, telling us that defence spending is going to be rising to 2.5% of GDP by 2027, and we had been expecting or anticipating that something along these lines ought to come along, given everything that's been happening in the last couple of weeks and the real emphasis being placed now on European defence, both in relation to Ukraine and more broadly as well. Um, Now, where's it coming from? He said that foreign aid is going to be reduced in order to pay for it, saying that it was not his, preference or instincts, not something that he wanted to do, but that was the decision. And thinking about when I was thinking about this in the past week or two, thinking where would the money come for an increase in defence spending, the big three obviously being borrowing or tax cuts or reducing money in other areas. I'd I'd not necessarily thought about defence spending, to be honest. It hadn't really crossed my mind. Sorry, did I say defence spending? Though I mean foreign aid. I hadn't really thought about foreign aid. Hadn't really crossed my mind. And similarly to what Starmer said in the Commons, obviously it doesn't sit comfortably with me. The idea of reducing what we're offering to other countries in the world that need it, or to help their development or humanitarian crisis or what have you. But at the same time, I'm trying to think about what I view as being the indisputable importance of raising our own defence spending at the moment. As far as taking the public with you on something like that goes, I think it would be much harder and perhaps more unpopular to try and justify an increase in defence spending by, say, raising taxes or by taking money out of areas that are going to directly impact people and, importantly, also voters in this country. And certainly the argument would then be made, well, hang on a minute, you had this money to pay off striking union workers, but not for other things. You've had, you've reduced the winter fuel payments for pensioners and this, that, and the other, and or you refuse to make changes to the child benefit cap. There could be all these points that can be made to say, well, hang on a minute, here are decisions that you've made where you've chosen to put money in one place or another, or to take money away from something. How does that fit into your larger vision, and why is it right that this much money is being spent on defence as opposed to other things? I think that certainly takes the fangs out of that kind of argument if it's a sort of direct transference from foreign aid into defence spending at the very least. So probably, I think probably the best way that it could have been done, or at least I can't think of a better alternative myself at the moment. So I'd say that on this particular issue in the last week or two, I'd say that I'm quite pleased with Keir Starmer thus far, and probably not surprisingly, given that it's issues pertaining to Ukraine and European defence, that this was the similar attitude I had towards Boris Johnson quite a few years back as well. For all my many grievances about Boris, I was very pleased to see him being such a strong supporter for Ukraine as he was as Prime Minister. I think he's taken a little bit longer to come out with some particularly strong statements against Donald Trump in recent weeks, but nonetheless, when he was Prime Minister, I was pleased with what he was doing there, and likewise with Starmer as well. There are things that Starmer and his government have done which I do not agree with. There are other things that sound promising, but we need to wait and see whether or not they come to fruition down the line. But at the very least, in the here and now, as far as continuing to support Ukraine and investing in our own defence, given that it's a changing world, then I think that they are on the right track on this one. Now, is 2.5 ultimately going to be enough? Well, they've already said that by the next Parliament they want to see it up at 3%. I expect it may have to happen sooner than that. There may have to be some kind of a revision towards when defence spending is going to be increased yet again, probably within the next few years. But as far as serving the immediate purposes for Starmer's off to go see Trump on Thursday to have discussions with him about Ukraine, he's got that in his back pocket at least to say, well, look, we're taking things seriously, we're upping our defence spending a bit, yada yada. It's better to have that as part of the overall situation than for him not to have made any announcements or measures prior to meeting him. Now, Macron met with Trump on Monday. Some very strong handshakes going on there, if you guys have seen the footage. And the best we've managed to get out of that, I think, is Trump saying something along the lines of that Russia or Putin will allow European troops, peacekeeping troops, or what have you, in Ukraine after the war. Um, I don't know whether or not this is a cast iron guarantee from Putin that Trump's already received, or whether this is an aspiration for Trump in negotiations with Putin, or whether it's just a series of words that seem to have came out of Trump's mouth at a particular point in time, because that happens plenty enough as well. Um, but at the very least, I suppose you can say that the meeting between Trump and Macron, it wasn't a disaster. It didn't cause a huge rift between France and the United States, and perhaps, I don't know, perhaps it did some good. And in that same vein, I wish Keir Starmer the best of luck going off to meet Trump on Thursday. I wouldn't want to be in that position. But we'll see what comes of it. At the very least, it's some of the leading European leaders going over there to try and assert what the situation actually is. So yeah, there we are. 2.5% by 2027. It's something, isn't it? It's something.